time to supercharge our home lab setup. In my previous videos, we explored what a budget mini PC can do in a home lab setup. It was perfect for running simple tasks like Linux servers, hosting, ad blockers, and even running a VPN server. But for today, we're stepping things up with a mid-tier powerhouse. Enter the $460 TrickKey i13 mini PC. This PC is powered by the Intel Core i9, and in simple words, it's got a solid CPU. This mini PC is built to handle way more than the basics. I was able to run multiple virtual machines that not only allowed me to run a NAS system and a media server, but I was even able to run multiple Windows operating systems, and I even ran some Linux operating systems, including running Docker applications inside of them. In this video, we'll dive into how this mini PC performs in a home lab setup and answer the big question: is spending the extra $300 worth it, or should you stick to the budget mini PC? But before we begin, feel free to skip to any part of this video because this might be a long one. Now, before we continue, let's just take a moment to discuss what is a NAS and why you need one. A NAS stands for Network Attached Storage, and essentially it's your own private server or cloud in your own home network. Imagine a centralized digital vault on your home network that holds all your backups, your files, documents, photos, and even videos. It lives on your home network and under your control with absolute privacy and no subscription fees. If you're paying for services like Google Drive or Dropbox, then having your own NAS makes total sense because you can save that money and, use it elsewhere. Now, next up we have is the media server. In this case, we are using Jellyfin. Think of it like this: it's your own private Netflix running in your own home network with all the movies you own. For this, I recommend using Jellyfin, which is a free open source media server that allows you to stream content like movies, videos, photos, and basically any sort of video content for free. Now let's talk about the hardware requirements. And no, you do not need this exact mini PC that I'm using for this video. You can use any old PC. Heck, you can even use your old desktop that's lying around, or even a laptop to make a home server. But for this specific video, I'm using the TrickKey i13 mini PC, which is small, quiet, and efficient when it comes to, delivering power. This PC has an Intel Core i9 processor, and it comes with 32 gigabytes of memory. And it also has dual M.2 slots, so you can add up to 2 NVMe SSDs. And you get all the ports that you need to, use in a home lab setup. For storage, I'm using a dual bay external enclosure by CentMate. It comes with multiple modes like RAID 0, JBOD, or just a bunch of drives, and RAID 1. For data redundancy, I'm going to be using this device in RAID 1 mode. That means if one drive were to fail, you would still have a backup or a copy of your data on the other drive. For the drives themselves, I'm using 4TB Western Digital RAID drives. With this enclosure, you can get up to 20 terabytes per drive if you want, so 40 terabytes in total if you're using in JBOD mode, but I haven't personally tested that, so I can't confirm. So if that got your interest, then let's go ahead and get into the install part of this video. I'll show you how to get this all installed and set up. Alright, let's talk the operating system. There are many ways you can set up a home lab. You can install Linux directly and then install Casa OS, or you can skip all that and directly install Zima OS. That will get you your media server plus Jellyfin. But if you do go that route, then you won't have proper hardware acceleration. That means you won't be able to utilize the Intel integrated graphics card for video transcoding. In simple words, all this means is that instead of utilizing CPU for video processing, we want to utilize the iGPU or the integrated graphics card for video processing because it's a lot more efficient and it frees up your CPU to do other things. So to do this properly, we're going to install Proxmox and then pass through our graphics card into the virtual machine that would utilize and run Jellyfin and hardware acceleration. Now, I've shown you multiple times on how to install Proxmox on this channel, So for this time, to keep it short, I'm just gonna drop a link below in the description, and you can follow my step-by-step guide on how to install Proxmox. Also, let me know in the comments below if you rather have the help guide, or do you want me to show how to install Proxmox every time I, do this type of video. Do let me know in the comments below. All right, now that we have our Proxmox set up, now it's time to set up our NAS operating system. In this case, I'm going to be using TrueNAS. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and download the TrueNAS ISO. And then we're going to go ahead and create our virtual machine in Proxmox. All right, so now that we have everything connected, next thing we are going to do is boot it up and log into Proxmox. And then go ahead, and the first thing we're going to do is install TrueNAS, which is going to be our home NAS server. So to go ahead and do that, log into your Proxmox. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and just take a look around real quick. So the first thing I want to confirm is that I have 20 CPUs that are showing up in, Proxmox, and I have around 32 gigabytes of RAM. So I do plan on upgrading this later on in the video. It's going to be about 64 gigabytes. And then if I go down to my disks, we have our 1 terabyte of NVMe SSD, which I will add another 1 terabyte for more virtual machines down the road. And we have our 2 hard drives, the Western Digital hard drives that are available now. Initially, I was going with the 4-bay with CentMate enclosure, and that did not work. So I have to scale it down to the one that I do have, which is a 2-bay one. So we should be able to set up a NAS with a mirror, meaning that there will be 2 drives having the same information on both drives. In case one goes down, you do have a data redundancy. So to make sure we, do this right, I'm going to go ahead and wipe our disk. Yes, I'm going to wipe this. And then I'm going to go ahead and wipe my second disk because I'm preparing this for my NAS setup. I want brand new clean drives, right? So once we have done that, I'm going to go ahead and click on Initialize with GPT and do the same thing on the second one. So in the end, it should look like this. Your GPT should say yes, and everything should be, pretty much formatted. Now I'm going to go ahead and create our virtual machine. And then from here, I want to create, but before I do that, I want to go ahead and download our TrueNAS ISO. So I'm going to go ahead and Google TrueNAS scale, and then go to the first, link, click on download, and then click on no thank you, I already have signed up. And then now I don't have to hit download and download it locally to my MacBook Pro. Instead, I want to right click and copy the link address. Then I'll go back to my Proxmox, go to my local PVE, and then say download from URL, paste my URL, hit query, and then hit download. Now I already did that before, so my ISO has been downloaded. Now if I go back and create a virtual machine, I can give it a name. I'll just call it NAS for NAS. And then the ISO image will be my TrueNAS scale. And everything else should be fine. System should be fine. Disk, you can give it more storage if you want, but I'm just going to assign it 32 gigabytes. For the CPU, I'll give it, we have 20, so I'll give it 8. And for the type, I want it host, so I want it to mimic the Core i9 that I have on board. For the RAM, I'll give it 12 gigabytes, so 12288, that should be 12 gigabytes. Network, we're fine with the network. Do remember that this PC has 2.5 gig Ethernet, so that's the maximum we'll have. Hit finish. Okay, once everything is set, we're gonna hit start. And you can head over to the console page. And you can see that the TrueNAS installation is here. Hit enter for it to boot into the installer. All right, we're gonna choose the very first option, install and upgrade. We're gonna select our 32 gig hard drive, so hit spacebar and hit OK. And it's gonna say, do you wanna erase everything? Which I'm fine with, yes. And then I do wanna use an admin user, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a password. hit OK. I want to say yes to that option as well. And it should take less than a minute to install TrueNAS Scale on this, system. All right, so it says TrueNAS has been successfully installed. I'm going to go ahead and reboot the system. And you can go to your hardware, go to your DVD drive, and then say don't use any media here, hit OK, so that every time it boots up, it's going to prompt it to, install the TrueNAS every time. So go ahead and unmount it so it just directly boots into the operating system. Now, for the very first time, it's going to take a while for it to, configure things, and, should take maybe 5 minutes to get everything configured. So I'll see you then. All right, so once Proxmox has been configured, it's going to give you an IP address that you can go on your browser and log in. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, or I can't really copy it. I'm just going to type that. So 10.0.0.83, and then you're going to be prompted for a login. So by default, the username should be TrueNAS admin, and the password should be whatever you created during the install time. So I'm going to go ahead and log in, and now we're here at the TrueNAS. Now, before we go any further, we have to actually pass through our hard drives over to the TrueNAS operating system. So basically, pass through means, you're moving or you're making your physical devices available to the virtual machine. So initially I had, planned to use this 4-bay external enclosure. So, we would have 4 drives. You can fit up to 80 terabytes in this one and have, ZFS partition and all that. But for some reason, this is not working with my setup. I tried on different computers and it didn't work. So we're going to have to stick with the 2-bay that I used in my earlier videos. So the next thing we're going to do is add our hard drives. So normally the best way to do that is to use serial numbers, because every time the Proxmox or the virtual machine boots up, the boot order, SDA, SDB, SDC, could switch. And if it does that, it could corrupt our data. So the best way to pass through your hard drives into a TrueNAS virtual machine is by using, command line and using the serial number. So to do that, I do have like a help guide. If I go to my DocMost, and if I go to my guides, go to Proxmox, and then HDD pass through. So to do this, I can, basically first list all the drives that I have. So I'm going to copy this command and then go to Proxmox, click on PVE, and then click on shell. And then in here, I can paste that command and then hit enter. And now it's going to list all the hard drives that are available for me to use. Not the hard drives, like all the drives. So the ones that you want to do copy are the first ones that start with ATA. And those are your SATA drives from your external hard drive. So in this case, these 2 are the ones that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this information over. Go down to my Proxmox, and I already pasted it earlier, so I have that. And then the command that we're going to use to mount these drives is going to be down here. So the command is qmset scsi1 dev disk by ID, and then you paste your serial number that you copied earlier. So in this case, I want to confirm what number is my NAS virtual machine. So in this case, it's 102. So I'm going to come back to my guide and change that or update that to 102. So the number 102 corresponds with your virtual machine ID. So 102 is here. And in this case, it's 102. But if it was like 105, or if you've installed it in your existing Proxmox and it's 105, then it's going to be, you're going to have to update your number accordingly. All right, so I have updated my command. So I'm going to go ahead and run the first one, copy this, go back to my Proxmox terminal. I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. All right, I'm going to paste my command and then hit enter. All right, that message means that it succeeded. So I'll go ahead and do the second one as well. All right, that looks like has succeeded as well. Both drives should be passed through now, and we can confirm by coming out here, and we can see that our hard drive, or number 0 is our main operating system drive. That is our 32 gig drive using the NVMe storage. Now we have hard disk 1. This is our first hard drive, and this is our second hard drive. All right, so now that we have set that, I can go back to my TrueNAS. So the first thing we're gonna do is click on storage and then go ahead and create a pool. So to give it a pool name, I'll just give it home pool. I'm keeping it very generic. You can name it whatever you want. And then for the layout, I'm just gonna choose mirror. So the mirror is basically, like I said before, it's gonna copy the information onto both drives. In case one fails, you have data redundancy on your other drive. What I had planned to do on this video was to use ZFS or RAID Z1, which would have allowed us to, have up to 4 drives with, a lot more storage. And then this means that 3 drives, if I had 4 terabytes each, so I had a total of 16 terabytes, I would have been able to use 12 terabytes, and then one of the drives would have been kept for, redundancy. So if one of the drives failed, I can just take that out, hot swap it, plug in the new one, and then everything gets rebuilt. That's what I had planned to do, but in this case, we'll just stick with mirror. And then it's gonna give us a size, which is fine. It automatically picked it up from the hard drive side. We have 4 terabytes, so it's automatically giving us 3.64 usable. And then we can skip the rest and then say save and go to review, and then go ahead and create the pool. It says everything will be erased. I am fine with that. Okay, our home pool has been created. Next, we want to go ahead and make a user so that we can connect this or mount this drive. So to do this, I'm gonna click on credentials, users, and then go ahead and add a new user. So in this case, I'll give it a name, Sean, and then password. And what I want to do next is come down here and then click on here, MNT, click on home pool, and then create a data set. So this will be called NAS system. Hit create. All right, so our drive will be under home pool under NAS system, or we can actually call it, whatever you want to call it. I'm just calling it NAS system. And then I can assign group permissions as well, and then we want to make sure that SMB user remains checked. So I'm going to hit confirm, continue, and our user has been created. Now we have Sean as the user. Now we're going to go ahead and create a share. Go to share, and what we want to do is enable Windows SMB share. So I'll go ahead and hit add here, expand here, and then click on our NAS system, and then make sure it's enabled. Hit save. Do you want to configure ACL? Yes, I do. And then start this service automatically. Yes, we should, because otherwise it won't start and then you won't be able to access it. So we do want to start it. Everything looks fine here. I'll leave everything default and hit save. All right, and that's it. Our NAS is up and running. To access it, we want to go and on a MacBook Pro, what we can do is click on Command K icon and then type smb:// and then the IP address of the server, which is 83. I'm going to hit connect, and it's going to say attempting to connect. Next, it's asking for a username. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the user and then type in the password, and bam, it's ready and connected. Now I can start, moving my files over. So this, how big is this? Let's see. This is around 6.69 gigabytes. And do keep in mind, right now I'm on my MacBook Pro on Wi-Fi. If I was on LAN, I would probably get a lot faster speeds, but I'll go ahead and start moving my files over. And the files are moving over. Everything is working great. And just to show you how, easy it is to access your NAS from a Windows machine. So I have this Windows 11 machine, and then I can just access it by going here, / 10.0.0.83 / and hit enter. Okay, I'm gonna be prompted for credentials, so type in my credentials. And there we go, that's our NAS system. And then the file that I uploaded from my MacBook Pro is now available here. All right, so that concludes our NAS install, configuration, and the whole 9 yards. It's pretty basic and easy to, it's pretty cool having a home NAS system because, you can do the same thing with an external USB drive or external storage, but then you have to remember that, that data is staying local on that device. If for any reason you lose your flash drive or anything, your data might be compromised. A good solution is to upload it to cloud, but then that gets expensive. That gets, cost add up. The costs add up. So, having a home NAS is a really game changer, at least in my opinion. I personally use my home NAS and I have it on a 10 gig network, which is a lot faster. But I primarily use it for, my video content because, there's all of that B-roll footage that I need for my future videos. It's easily accessible. It's all right there. And I can quickly go and grab what I need. And I can even edit on my home NAS over the 10 gig network. So maybe one of my future videos, I'll show that. All right, now that we have our NAS operating system up and working, next we need to install Jellyfin, which is going to be streaming our movies and videos. So to do that, I'm going to be installing the Linux operating system, and specifically, I'm going to be using Ubuntu Server, which is pretty lightweight to install a server. You can do the same thing with Debian if you want, but for this video, I'm choosing Ubuntu Server. All right, so for the sake of time, again, I'm going to provide instructions on how you can install Linux. Otherwise, that would be another 10 minutes of this video. But then again, do let me know in the comments below, do you like to follow along or do you prefer written instructions? Now, on the Linux side, I went ahead and installed a graphical user interface, in this case, GNOME. This is what it looks like. We have the full, interface. It's basically like Windows operating system. So by default, you're going to get something that's going to look like this. Once you log in, you can install GNOME and you can install XRDP, and then you can use Microsoft, a remote desktop application from your Mac or your Windows PC, and then you can easily remote in, and that's usually what I do. Even though most of the time I use the terminal after I remote in, I just like having that, familiar experience. All right, now that we have our Ubuntu server set up, next thing we're going to do is pass through our graphics card to the virtual machine. Now, this mini PC uses the Intel Iris Xe graphics, so we're going to be using that for video transcoding. Now, in my test, I first tried to do this with Microsoft Windows, and the drivers just would not work correctly in a Proxmox setup. But with Linux, this works fine without any issues, so that's why we ended up using Linux for this setup. And just to recap, the reason we're doing this is so we can free up our CPU for doing other tasks and utilize the GPU for, processing or transcoding the video. Because otherwise your GPU will be just sitting idle and your CPU will be doing all the hard work. Now, to do the GPU pass-through, it's a very lengthy and long process. So what I'll do is I'll link the instructions in the description below. And then again, you can follow them step by step, and you should not have any issues if you have this mini PC. All right, now that we have our Intel graphics card passed through, I want to confirm and make sure that it is showing up in my Linux. So open up terminal and then run the following command that, will be in the instructions. I'll hit enter. And then it says VGA compatible controller, Intel Raptor Lake. So yeah, my graphics card is showing up in here without any issues. So now I should be able to do video transcoding. Now I highly recommend, installing GNOME and XRDP so that you can remote in. But on the contrary, you can use SSH and then, basically paste stuff between your Linux and your local machine. So now that I'm remoted in, I'm going to go ahead and open up Firefox. That's the default browser that comes with this install. And then I'm going to go ahead and search for Jellyfin. Right, I'm going to go to the Jellyfin's website and then hit download. So I'm going to click on install instructions, and then all I got to do is really copy this command and then paste it in and hit enter. going to ask me for a password. So go ahead and put in my local password. All right, and it's going to confirm that everything looks okay. To me, it does. I'm going to press enter. And the rest is pretty much automatic. It's going to automatically install everything for us for Jellyfin. And then next step would be configuring Jellyfin. All right, so now Jellyfin has been installed and it gave us an IP address that we can use to access our Jellyfin. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I would rather do that on my local machine. So 10.0.0.53, and then the port number is 8096. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is set up and configure Jellyfin. So you'll get the welcome screen. I'll hit next. Username, I'll leave it as Jellyfin, and then password. Confirm the password and then hit next. I'm just using a dummy password, so that's fine. I don't care. Next is adding the media library. Okay, so now we need to mount our Linux operating system, which I can show you real quick. So what we want to do is mount our NAS that we made earlier, and I showed you that I was able to mount to Mac OS and Windows. But we got to do the same thing with this Linux operating system. So again, we got to take our NAS and mount it onto our Linux server. So I'll come back to our Linux and go ahead and, mount that over. So first thing I'm going to do is go to my root folder by doing cd // and hit enter. And then I can do ls, which is list all the directories. Normally, it's best practice to attach your storage under the MNT folder. So I'm going to go into MNT folder, cd MNT, and then make a new folder here. So I'll call this mkdir NAS. So it says permission denied. So I have to use my elevated privileges. So I'll do sudo make directory. And there we go. We have our NAS folder in there. And then to that, we're going to mount our home NAS server so that all our videos and content becomes available there. All right, next thing I'm going to do is modify our fstab. So to do that, I'm going to type in sudo nano etc /fstab and hit enter. And here is where we can specify our mount drive and the mount path and, even pass on the credentials. So let me go ahead and do that. So here's the generic information. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and add in my home NAS server. So in my case, it's going to be 10.0.0.152//NANAK SMB. So that's my home server address. And then I'm mounting this onto the MNT NAS folder. And now generally it's very bad practice to, stick your username and password in here. So you should make your own, config file that reads the password from there. But for my purposes, I'm just going to do this since this is a demo, and then save everything. Next thing I'm going to do is test it. So I can do sudo mount a, and then it says has been modified. I did not get any error messages. So if I do ls again, my NAS, I'll navigate into my NAS, cd NAS, and there we go. My entire NAS system is mounted onto this Linux machine, and I should be able to access any files or folders from here. So now I can go back to my Jellyfin and configure the rest. All right, so now in my Jellyfin, I want to go ahead and add media library. And then I want to choose my content type. In this case, it's going to be home videos and photos. And I'll just call it YouTube for now. And then I would like to specify my folder. And then in this case, it's going to be /MNT. And then you can hit this search icon. And then it starts navigating. So NAS. I want to go under YouTube. And I want to use a sample tests. And then hit OK. And then hit OK again. And there we go. My video folder has been added. These are all the videos that I use to put on my NAS server and watch them before I actually upload them to YouTube. All right, so I'm going to hit next. Everything language is English for me, and then country region is United States. All that looks fine to me. Finish. And then I'm going to go ahead and log in. And then this is giving me a password warning because I used a very bad password. This is just a demo. I don't do that in reality. All right, so go ahead and click on YouTube. And these are all the videos that I had for testing. I'll go ahead and play one. And we can see it's playing just fine. And then just like that, I can open up and play a few more. I'll play this one. I'll play this one. Now you can see that this is buffering, right? It took a while for it to load, and this one is still loading, and it's taking some time because the CPU is not truly that optimized to do the video transcoding as compared to the graphics card. All right, so what I'm gonna do next is switch over my video transcoding from CPU to the Intel graphics card. And it's very simple and easy to do. Just go to settings and then go to administration and click on dashboard. And then from there, you can click on playback and then click on transcoding. And right now, hardware acceleration is none. So we're gonna go ahead and switch this over to Intel Quick Sync. That option, leave everything as is default, scroll all the way to the bottom and then hit save. And it's saying that it may cause instability, stuff like that, which is fine. Just hit got it. Our settings have been saved. Now, if I go back to Jellyfin by clicking this, I can start playing the video. And there we go. Everything is working quite smoothly, much faster. I can open up a few more of these. And everything is streaming just fine. I'm able to stream multiple videos at the same time. If you're doing CPU based, unless your CPU is quite strong and powerful, a low grade CPU will struggle, but a high grade CPU will not struggle as bad. But ideally, we want to free up our CPU to do other things and then GPU to transcode our video. All right, so if I look at the usage, my CPU in Proxmox for this virtual machine for Jellyfin is around 20%, which is great. And my memory usage has spiked because, video transcoding does require more memory. So once I add more memory to my PC, I should be able to, give this virtual machine some more RAM. So yeah, that's pretty much it for how to use Jellyfin and applied video transcoding. So obviously there's more room down the road for more virtual machines. So I do plan on adding a couple more. Now that we have everything up and running, the true question is this even worth the extra $300 price tag? So this TrickKey i13 comes for $460 and the Beelink S13 comes for $160. So overall, there's a $300 price difference. And is that price difference even worth it? Well, if you're starting with the basic home lab setup, maybe running a simple ad blocker and maybe setting up a simple VPN, then sticking to the $160 Beelink is a great pick. But if you're ready to upgrade your home lab to handle multiple virtual machines, a full NAS setup, and even a 4K streaming server, and even run multiple virtual machines all at the same time, then using the TrickKey i13 or practically any Core i9 mini PC is going to be a massive leap. But do keep in mind that the TrickKey i13 does utilize a lot more electric power than the Beelink S13. So the Beelink S13 ranges around 10 to 15 watts, while the TrickKey was around 50 to 60 watts at idle and 80 watts at peak. So it does use a lot more power, so do keep that in mind. Well, in closing, I would like to say is that the Core i9 mini PC is a real powerhouse. You can go with the TrickKey i13 or pretty much pick any Core i9 PC that's under, $500. It's a great deal overall. And in my use case, I'm very surprised as to how many things I can run simultaneously at the same time. Well, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like this video and leave a comment below if you have any questions or concerns, or, just in general. And I'll see you in my next video. Peace.